Do you want a skateboard that's going to be incredibly stable but also incredibly maneuverable? That's going to be stable enough that you can weave in and out of crowds and in between objects, but also stable enough that you can bomb a hill directly after and hit pretty high speeds? Well, this is the video for you. In this video, I'm going to be talking about baseplate angles, split angles, and how you can use angled risers to achieve that. If you're interested, check out the video. In order to understand all of this, we need to understand what baseplate angles are. So baseplate angle is basically the angle that the pivot makes with the baseplate. A baseplate angle tells us how much a truck leans and how much a truck turns. So a truck with a high baseplate angle is going to turn a lot, and a truck with a low baseplate angle is going to lean more than it turns. Turning is the movement of the hanger back and forth, and leaning is the movement of the hanger up and down. So this truck is 50 degrees, so this truck turns a lot and doesn't lean all that much. And this truck is 20 degrees, this truck leans a lot and doesn't turn all that much. And hopefully with that you understand how baseplate angles work. So what is a split angle? A split angle is when one truck has a higher angle or a lower angle than the other, and this applies to both longboards and both skateboard trucks as well. Conversely, when your front and back truck have the same angle, they're said to be symmetrical trucks, or rather same trucks. Okay, so how do split angle trucks achieve stability and incredible maneuverability? So let's take our symmetrical trucks. If you were to have a truck that has a high angle of example 50 degrees, we're going to have a truck that turns a lot, really maneuverable, can weave in and out of objects, but a truck that's not all that stable. If you have a truck that turns too quickly and too much at higher speeds, it's going to be quite twitchy, and that can also lead to speed wobbles. On the other end of the spectrum, if we have symmetrical trucks that both have a very low angle, let's say like 30 degrees, we're going to have a truck that's very stable, that can go in a straight line and can reach a high speed without really twitching or wobbling all that much, but it's not going to be very turny, it's not going to weave in and out of objects that easily, it's not going to be very nimble, it's going to be really sluggish and hard to turn, it's not going to be the funnest to skate. But what split angles do is we pair a low angle back truck with a high angle back truck, just like these trucks do. So you have a 50-degree truck in the front and a 20-degree truck in the back. Now, giving the truck a low angle base plate in the back is key to stability. Most instability, most wobbles tend to come from a back truck that is too turny. So by reducing how much the back truck turns, we're able to eliminate a lot of instability and significantly lower the chances of speed wobbles. And because we have a high angled truck in the front, we still get pretty good overall turning. For an extreme example, when we have a split angle setup on our board, kind of turns like a car with all the turning coming from the front and the back truck just really doing most of the following. Now that we know how split angle trucks work, how can we get split angle trucks on our existing trucks? Okay, so with most reverse kingpin companies, most of them have various base plate angles available. For example, with Bear trucks, for the Gen 6 truck, you can get a 50-degree base plate, a 40-degree base plate, and a 30-degree base plate that's not yet available but will be available soon. What that means is that you can pair a 50-degree truck in the front with a 40-degree truck in the back, and you can get a lot more stability in your setup without really sacrificing maneuverability all that much. Now, with traditional kingpin trucks like these Bear TKPs, you don't really get a lot of options when it comes to base plate angles. You're really going to have to change the angle of the truck with an angled riser. An angled riser is basically a riser that has one really fat end and really allows you to change the angle of your truck. Now, the nice thing about angled risers is that you can use them on basically any longboard truck and change its angle and get it to either turn more or turn a lot less. With this angled riser, we can either increase the angle the kingpin makes with the ground or rather your board by placing the fat end of the angled riser underneath the kingpin, or we can decrease by placing the fat end of the angled riser under the pivot. And when you decrease the angle of a truck, this is known as de-wedging. And when you increase the angle of the truck, this is known as wedging, and I'll be using those terms from now on. And those are terms you might encounter when you're asking for advice in like really core longboarding groups and whatnot. So if you don't really have access to different base plate angles, you use wedge risers or angled risers to change the angle of your trucks. But the bad thing about angled risers is they add height to your trucks. So angled risers add height to your truck. So for example, as we can see, these trucks are presently level, but if you were to de-wedge the back truck, you'll see that it's a little bit higher than the front truck. But now in order to get the same ride height, we're going to have to place a 1/8 inch riser on your front truck in order to get the same ride height. Now you don't really want one truck to have a higher ride height than the other, so this is kind of necessary. And yeah, that's the main disadvantage with angled risers. And yeah, that's basically how you achieve split angles, simply by a angled riser for the back, de-wedge the back, and boom, you have split angles, story finished. For example, this is a 40-degree base plate in the front, and now this angles out to about 30 degrees, and I get a lot more stability without sacrificing maneuverability. And this can be applied anywhere, to your cruiser board, to your downhill board, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. But the story does not end there just yet. Now, for a given bushing, for example, a 90A bushing in a truck with a high angle, that truck is going to really feel stiff with that bushing. In a truck with a low angle, that truck is going to feel really loose with that same 90A bushing. And here's why. In trucks with high angles, you don't have all that much leverage over your trucks, so most bushings feel quite stiff. In trucks with low angles, you have a lot of leverage over your bushings, so they tend to feel quite soft. So if you're wedging and de-wedging, you're going to have to go with a much harder bushing in your back truck, just so that your back truck doesn't feel all soft and all weird. If your back truck feels softer than the front truck, it's just naturally going to articulate more and respond to your input more, and you're basically asking for instability and wobbles. And when you're really skating aggressively or taking hard turns, you're going to feel the back sort of doing its own thing, and you don't want that. Now, for some real world examples of what people do when they wedge and de-wedge, let's take these trucks from the Comet Cruiser. Now, the Comet Cruiser is one of the best cruisers in the world. It's really nimble but also stable. What this means is you can weave in and out of objects, and you can take really aggressive turns with confidence because that back truck is locked in and it's going to follow the front truck, and it's super fun to skate. Now, on the Comet Cruiser, the front truck is wedged up 7 degrees and the back truck is wedged down 7 degrees. In the front truck, you have softer 83A SHR Venom bushings, and in the back truck, you have much harder 88A SHR Venom bushings. And yeah, it works well. It feels good, and this is a great example of how to wedge and de-wedge, and it's also a great example of what you're supposed to do with your bushings. Another real world example is going to be these Bear Smokies. Now, these trucks have a 50-degree base plate in the front and a 20-degree base plate in the back. In the front truck, I'm running a 78A bushing and a 74A bushing, and in the back truck, I'm running a 97A bushing and a 95A bushing on the top. As you've noticed, the front truck is very soft and the back truck is super hard. When you have a really low angle, you're going to really want to go really hard with the bushings. And yeah, it works. It feels great on my skateboard. Leans and turns nice and stable, super maneuverable. Yeah. And I don't want to touch too much on how hard you should go with the bushings with the de-wedge in the back, but typically, let's say it's a 5-degree de-wedge, like front truck 45, back truck 40 degrees, you maybe want to go 1 duro up. So if in the front truck I'm running like a 85A bushing, in the back truck I might go 87A or 80A. And yeah, you typically don't want to wedge your trucks up beyond 55 degrees or wedge them up too much. They can tend to feel quite turny and too reactive to your input, and that's not really all that nice. In terms of de-wedging, you can de-wedge your trucks all the way into hell, but just be careful with how much you raise the ride height. It can quickly get really tall. But yeah, man, I mean, a little de-wedge is going to be enough for most people. It's going to add a lot more stability and a lot more confidence to your ride. So yeah, but do experiment, and if you want to chat more about it, leave a comment, mate. Tell me about your de-wedging and wedging adventures. I'm here for it, willing to listen. Be my friend, bro. Subscribe and like. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Hope it was insightful. Hope you all learned something. I hope split angles and angled risers are clear to you, and you basically know what it is that you need to do, and you have all the tools and all the information you need to make your board as stable and as maneuverable as possible. I'm going to have a few videos coming up of where I apply these concepts and show you how they can work in the real world. And yeah, thanks for watching. Big thanks to my patrons as per usual, and yeah, love you guys. Yeah, see you guys in the next video. Take care.